This hangout is live. Hello there, gorgeous. You are on with Abiola Abrams from sacredbombshell.com. And this is not my normal Spiritpreneur School podcast, but this is a Spiritpreneur School bonus being made at the behest of author Shonell Bacon. Now, Shonell, I first met when I wrote my first book, a novel named Dare, a love story. And Shonell was a reviewer. I believe she reviewed it on her Chicklet Girl site. And her quote may even be in the updated versions of Dare. So I'm going to answer her questions. This video that Shonell asked me to make is because she is creating a new site and a new venture about and for women in media. Now, if you are a new member of Planet Abiola, if you're a new member of my tribe, you may be like, well, Abiola, what do you have to do with women in media? Because you may know me as the midwife for your inspired life, an author, coach, speaker, and empowerment specialist who helps women to become unstuck in all of the ways that we can get stuck. However, or I should say in addition to that, rather than however, I actually started out as a woman not in tech, but in media. I started out as a woman in media. And actually, that's still apparent, I feel, from my work. That for me, the work that I do is my calling and my ministry, and media is, the way that I'm able to communicate and bring it to you. So this to me is being a woman in media, and I've worked extensively both in big box media, network media, and also in indie media. So I'm excited about answering this question. Let me just tell you briefly about Shonell and the stuff that she does so that you could get some placement. And let me just put this to you. If you are unfamiliar with my Spiritpreneur School podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, or right here on YouTube where you may be watching this. Shonell Bacon is an author, a doctoral candidate, an editor, educator, and she says that she is every woman. She is published both creatively and academically. Her site is CLG Entertainment, and Chicklet Girl High on Lattes and Writing is her writing site. Her new site, as I said, will be focused on women in tech and media. All right. So here are her questions for me, and hopefully they will be of use to you as well. I wanted to do this in part on video so that you could be able to access it. And, I always want to make sure that with everything that I'm doing when I'm partnering with other amazing sisters, that my tribe gets to share and benefit from whatever tidbits of juicy wisdom as well. All right. So here's her first question for me. What was the initial spark that moved you to pursue your career? Was it a mentor? She wants to know specific talents, passion, dream. Explain as needed. So, as I alluded to earlier, I started out in media. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, maybe about 13, 14, a classmate reminded me a few years ago that she remembered me saying that I wanted to make a talk show. I wanted to host talk shows like Oprah, make movies like Spike, and write books like Toni Morrison. Well, for me, because, of course, we can admire people and want to emulate them, but we've got to choose our own path. My path didn't unfold like any of those people's, but has elements of their path within. I'm inspired by them, I guess I could say. They've been my mentors from afar. Although I haven't had the benefit of working with any of those people except for Spike Lee on a couple of occasions, and I actually see him around New York City, and had the benefit of writing for his wife's site. And I want to ask him, Mr. Lee, do you remember when you directed me in that McDonald's commercial and like a couple of other things for Spike DDB Needham? That's his advertising agency. But I never get the courage to ask, but maybe I will. But anyway, so I started out after college, after my undergrad. I worked I interned at CNBC, a CNBC subsidiary actually in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and also interned at McGraw-Hill Publishing in the college textbook division, college textbook marketing. And so I started out working in media, knowing that what I wanted to do was empower women. And very shortly after that, I created an off-Broadway stage show that was at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture here in New York City, in Harlem actually, named Goddess City, which has been published by the University of Michigan and is registered as the very first hip-hop stage play. So I'm very, very proud of that. And then I did a number of different commercials, from Dr. Pepper to a number of different commercials, and did some bit TV roles here and there, like blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. The person in the intro in the first, 10-minute lead in Law and Order, and, little bit roles on All My Children and stuff like that, little things here and there. And then I realized that I was actively pursuing a career in something that didn't mean enough to me to face the kind of rejection that you face in that career. So I made some adjustments, adjusted a bit, and refocused with focusing on hosting TV, because I was still in my head, had my Oprah thing going. And so I did a lot of correspondent stuff, shows that I hosted, shows that came on after Showtime at the Apollo on NBC at like 3 a.m. It was a hip hop show affiliated with Source Magazine. I hosted a show on BET late night on Sunday, like, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock, called The Best Shorts. It was a short film competition, and, did a bunch of different things like that. And also directed a number of different empowerment films for women with the topics of addressing taboo topics, from depression and, manic depression, bipolar disorder, it was called. Knives in My Throat was the experimental film that I directed about that topic, to women's sexuality, feminist sexuality. And so it was really, really great for me, because I was able to explore topics that we usually don't talk about and create these empowerment films for women. And so a natural spin-off of that was getting offers to speak, to be on panels, that sort of thing. And as I started to work with women in large groups by coming to them as a speaker and as a writer, I've always been a writer since I was 12, but I didn't have the courage to write until I was write publicly, except for, my films and stage stuff, but write publicly and published until I was 30 was when I had that courage, like, okay, I'm ready to put it out there in that way. And so as I started to get offers to speak and basically coach large groups, from universities to boardrooms, then it morphed into people hiring me to work with them one-on-one. Then by then I had my master's degree, and so then I went and got my life coach certification. So that's how my work evolved in media. The interesting thing about media is, if you speak to 100 different women in media, you will have 100 stories of how they got started. It's not like being a doctor or a lawyer where you just do A, B, C, D and carve out a path. Mentorship has been very pivotal and very key for me. Very early mentor when I was at the CNBC subsidiary was Carol Martin. She was on the news back in the days, and it was cool because her husband Joe, I can't remember his last name, but he was a director for the Oprah show. So I learned a lot working as first her intern, and then she hired me as a personal assistant. And I learned a lot from her, just from being in her presence, seeing how she ran her business and ran her household, and also just about possibility, because she was another African-American woman who I felt like believed in me and took me under her wing. And it was great. It was a really great experience. And then I've had other experiences, because I've worked for a range of different networks that were not necessarily so positive. And so, there would be situations, the ugly part of working in media is that even though it's very big, it's a very small world. And so when I've heard stories like, women there was the big scandal, I can't remember her name, and I don't want to butcher it, but a couple of years ago, a woman sued the network she was working for sexual harassment, I believe. And people said, why didn't she speak up? Why didn't she tell anybody? Well, the thing is that it's a very small industry and people don't want to get blacklisted. And so there were a lot of things that happened that made me as a young woman feel uncomfortable, frankly, at different networks. Things from people making racial comments toward me about my skin color at African-American networks, to all sorts of things that I frankly felt uncomfortable with speaking up and saying this happened to me because A, I didn't want to get fired. B, once you get fired, you know, it's a very small industry and people don't want to rehire you. So the great thing for me is indie media allows you to bypass the BS and speak directly and connect with your audience. I'm looking to see, I wonder how many questions she has here, because this is all a lot about number one. I'm seeing her question number 2 is, talk to me about your journey in your career. Did you face any obstacles in pursuit? If so, do you believe those obstacles were tied to you being African-American and or an African-American woman? Okay, good. So, so we're in question 2. So yeah, so the great thing is, you know, that once indie media came out, I embraced it wholeheartedly. I already had been writing and performing pieces on theater, but when literally as soon as podcasting was invented, my first podcast, The Goddess Factory, was in 2005, and it's still on iTunes, and I now add these episodes to the Goddess Factory. It allowed me to be able to speak directly to my audience in a way that working for big corporations, for big media, which has its merits, you know, but it didn't allow me to reach them in that way. So whether with books, where now I can publish directly and make my offerings to you directly, versus, you know, in addition to, I should say, Simon & Schuster, who was my first publisher, or with, you know, TV, which is basically what we're doing, TV on the web, to, you know, and I still go and do TV talk shows and may even, you know, have a show of my own on big TV in the future again, to, you know, for example, these African goddess affirmation cards that I have, that I am a big user and lover of African-American, of affirmation cards, I should say. Trying to hide my nails because they don't look so so exciting right this minute. But I love affirmation cards, but I would never see people who look like me on them. So I wanted to have positive affirmation cards with a range of different colors, complexions of women, women of color, and a range of different hair textures. And so, you know, I started to make my own and publish them and be able to offer them again directly. So that's the difference again between big media and small media. And you can, I believe, have a combination of the two. It used to be very either or. I remember being at a party with a friend, use the word friend loosely. Actually, this is a story I'll share with you. With an associate, someone I went to school with, and, you know, she pulled up one of my YouTube videos. This is many, many years ago. And she did it like, you know, like I should be ashamed. She was like, this was on YouTube. Like, it was disgusting to be blogging or doing YouTube, you know, when she worked for big networks, and so did I. And so why would you be doing this? It was like, it was disgraceful. But to me, there is nothing disgraceful when you know your mission, you know your message, and you can speak directly with your tribe, which is what we are doing. And so I remember at that time pitching to her and a number of other people, you know, I wanted to do a talk show where, and it's so funny how far we've come. I was pitching a talk show where people would tweet to me and I could answer their tweets, and they would Facebook me and I could answer their Facebook messages. And it was so, at the time, people had never heard of such a thing. Now that's just kind of de rigueur. It's just regular. That's just basically what you do. But at the time they were like, what? You want to do what? Twitter, what? But again, for me, I'm an early adapter. Like I said, I started podcasting in 2005. I joined Twitter in 2008. That for me, if there's any way that I can be connected directly without the middleman in the way, I do it. A quick story about why I call that person an associate rather than a friend is that one of the things, I guess I don't know, a negative experience that I've had with sometimes working with people in media is just realizing, and this is just a part of life, that I remember someone said to me when I was in my 20s, Abiola, everyone doesn't wish you well. And I guess I was somewhat of a Pollyanna, which I still am, to some degree, but with wisdom and experience behind it. And that was devastating to me to hear that. And one example of that is that the person that I mentioned before is someone that I've known since I was in 7th grade. And I remember coming to them with this amazing producer who was packaging and producing a show for me. And I left the room to either go to the bathroom or get some more paperwork or whatever reason. I left the meeting. And this person that I thought was my friend started to badmouth me to the producer that I brought in to meet her, which is insane to me. Like, I can't imagine doing that. But, there were, I guess, like in any industry, just be aware of the people that you surround yourself with. All right, next question. What major highlights have you witnessed during your career? These major highlights, did they help shape what you thought about yourself and the work you did? Did they push you to do better? Yeah. Like, I would love to say that I'm so evolved that, the word and the accolades from my peers don't mean anything, but they really still do. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be so evolved that it really will not matter, as one of my mentors, Dr. Wayne Dyer, says. But it feels good, when you work really hard, when you bust your butt 70 hours a week or whatever it is to create work, to have people give it a thumbs up. So for me, that could mean anything like your positive comments on YouTube to positive reviews. I am blessed that I've won a number of awards. African American Women in Cinema, they gave my documentary Knives in My Throat, won an award, I believe, for best documentary. I may have the award wrong, but I've gotten awards in film, been invited to Germany to come out there and make short films for women, have won all kinds of awards for my filmmaking. I've won the show that the BT show that I had after they fired me, won a Telly for the past seasons that I was on. So that was pretty cool. I won an African American Literary Award. I've won Black Enterprise, gave my blog an award. Just today, I received an award from the Psychology of Eating Foundation, I think. Maybe butchering the name again, but they gave me an award for best top wellness blog and empowerment blog for AbiolaTV.com, which is now transitioning into SacredBombshell.com. So yeah, it does feel good because I work hard and my work matters to me, and I'm doing work that I'm getting teary talking about. I'm doing work that I really feel I was born to do. And so the awards by themselves don't mean anything, but it means something because I know that it will help me to reach more people. So yes. All right, let's see. Did you have role models and or mentors as you ventured into your career? We talked about a bit about that. If so, did they help you to travel the field's terrain? If not, do you think having role models or mentors would have helped you? How so? One of the things I wish I would have started sooner is getting coached. That now I can see, as someone who coaches other people, how exponentially faster you can go when you have that kind of hands-on mentorship. I have had women, amazing women, who have offered mentorship to me in the past, and I talk about this a bit in the Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love. And for different reasons, I have turned down their friendship or their mentorship because of my own insecurities and feeling not good enough to be able to work with those amazing women in that way. And so that was something that I had to really work on in myself, that feeling of I am not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready yet, all that stuff that we do to ourselves, that BS belief system stuff. But yes, being able to have a mentor, I think, is incredible. And if you, there are a couple of ways I recommend having mentors. I have people who email me every day and say, Abiola, can I be your mentor? The way that I mentor is by going and speaking to organizations, because frankly, there are not enough hours in the day to be able to work with everyone one-on-one. And because also I do this for a living, being coached by me is a great way to be mentored. Hire me, hire someone as your coach or consultant. Another way is that you can have people who are your mentors who just don't even know that they're your mentors, that you can be their mentee from afar. And so one of the reasons I created my Spiritpreneur School podcast, and I interview so many amazing women and include those interviews in my books and on my site and on my YouTube, etc., is because I received so many offers, so many requests for mentorship, and I wanted to be able to interview amazing people, find out how they do what they do, what inspires and motivates them, and then you as the viewer can be able to have that mentorship from afar by learning from a wide variety of people. So that's pretty exciting, and that's the way that I'm able to do that at this time. Okay. If you have role models and or mentors, were they African American women or other women of color? Yes, I told you about Carol Martin. I have had African American men mentor me. It has been, again, you know, the ugly things nobody wants to talk about. It's been challenging to have male mentors because there unfortunately is oftentimes an expectation of, at least with the couple of people who have tried to reach out and mentor me, it then seems like they want something else, which is not my flow and not how I'm, you know, how I operate myself or my career or anything like that. And I directly had producers directly state implicitly that if you want to move ahead, sleeping with me is the way to do it. And I've not done so. Don't choose to do so. It's not how, you know, do whatever works in your life. But for me, that, you know, being able to wake up and sleep with myself at night and feel good about who I am matters more than anything else. So my mentors, for the most part, have been all women, with the exception of a couple of men who were gay. I'm trying to think of any straight male mentors that I've had. And I'm sure there have been, but I can't think of any. I've been hired by straight men, but I wouldn't necessarily call someone just because they hire you your mentor. And they're amazing men who have given me, you know, oh, I just thought of like an incredible person. There are people who can be your mentor from afar. For example, Sean Gardner, amazing man, big in social media. He reached out to me, and he's the reason I have a Huffington Post column. So there are all kinds of amazing people of all kinds of orientations. And I'm just speaking from only my experience, not to implicate straight men or gay men or anybody else. All I can do is tell my own story. I hope that you are able to have mentors of all backgrounds, all colors, all orientations. And actually, let me state this. I feel like one of the things where we, as, you know, for me, that I noticed from my other women of color friends is that people only tend to look for mentors who look like them. Don't do that. Reach outside of your group and have mentors of all backgrounds who are interested in what you're interested in. They don't have to look like you to be your mentor. All right, let's see. What else? Okay, number 6, do you think more women of color are needed in your field? If so, why? Why do you think that they would, what do you think they would provide that is currently missing? Absolutely. I think that there are more women needed in media and positions of power, and more women of color. And the reason is that storytelling changes depending on who is telling it. And that's just frankly a human fact that, you know, I'm not an objective person. I know how to be objective because I have journalistic training, but I am rarely objective in my life because I have an opinion. And so for me, that was, again, a benefit of working directly in independent media, because I'm not a robot. I'm a human being, and I care about the things that influence me. And so when things went down in Ferguson, I went to Ferguson because, again, it was something that I wanted, a story I wanted to tell. And the last thing I'll say about this specific topic is, with my BT show, the Best Short Film Showcase, I used to end each show by saying, until lions tell their own stories, tales of the hunt will only glorify the hunter. And that means that, you know, while I enjoy telling stories about all people, you know, from all religions, all ethnic groups, all backgrounds, whatever. But the people I'm most interested in, frankly, are, if I could tell stories all day about Guyanese American, Guyanese American chocolate sisters that, you know, have like blue polka dot shirts, I probably would. only because I feel like those stories are lacking, because I want to hear more from stories of me. So whatever your background is, if you are, Caribbean, if you are African, if you are, from West Africa versus Southern Africa, or from, African American from New York versus down south, or Latina from the Dominican Republic versus Puerto Rico, your stories are going to have a little bit of a different flair. So get into the market and tell your stories. All right, let's see. How do you think we could encourage more women of color, particularly young women of color, to enter this field? I think doing exactly what you are doing, Shonell, by creating this amazing website. I think by being visibility is really important. That there is an invisibility that was going on for a while in media. For example, I rarely until last year saw any Asian people at all in the media. There were 3 women or 4 women I could think of, and Asian men practically totally invisible. So visibility lets other people know, hey, I could do that. When the woman Carol Martin, when I got to the network and she was there and she had a show, and actually her show that she had on that CNBC subsidiary was called Alive and Wellness. And I saw her hosting a show about, well-being and alternative therapies and health. I was like, wow, I could do that. And so even though I don't think of what I'm doing today as being directly related to working for her, if I really think about it, heck yeah, who knows what it planted in my subconscious in terms of researching those alternative therapies and alternative ideas about healing and health and well-being. So visibility, I think, is very important. The other thing is each one bring one, doing exactly what we're doing right now. Shonell and I are combining our forces, to get out there, and I'm being exposed to her audience, she's being exposed to my audience, and vice versa. And it's really amazing and powerful, and something that we should all do. All right, so let's see. How do you think we could encourage more women of color, particularly young women of color, to enter this field? I just answered that. Oh, number 8, Brigitte Danielle, Executive VP of Wilco Electronic Systems, once asked, if we are the highest consumers of these technologies, why aren't we creating them? How would you answer that for your field? Absolutely. I interviewed this amazing woman for Spiritpreneur School who is creating apps. And so I think that we need to be in all aspects of what we're doing. That my brother, for example, is a computer guru, and that is what he does. And that is amazing. And he then is paving a path for people like him to come afterward and do it. And so I think that in terms of why aren't we creating these technologies, I think that in a lot of cases, people don't know that they can. That we, especially women, tend to wait for permission. Right now, consider this your permission slip to go forward and do whatever the heck you want to do. If there is something missing, do it. That if there is a book you want to read, write it. If there's media you want to make and shows that you aren't seeing, make it. Do it. Okay, combine forces with someone equally as amazing and make it happen. Make it bounce, as we say. All right, let's see. To young women of color who might be interested in going into media fields, what are 3 solid pieces of advice you would offer them? Number 1, I would say what I just said, combine your superpowers with a friend or associate who want something. Let me see, I'm trying to remember the law of physics, equal and opposite, somebody who has equal and opposite powers. That for me, my bestie Crystal Mosley has been an incredible co-creator for me, in me being able to do indie media. And what she wants to do, or what she actually is now doing, is she is an incredible producer and director. And so for me, with the work that I do, it works well with the work that she does, and we were able to go forward and create indie media together. So do that, partner. Number 2, I would say, if you want to make it in media, write. Be a writer, whether it's a TV writer, a film writer, you're going to write books. If you want to start out like I did, as a writing copy at McGraw-Hill in my internship, writers are always valuable. That's how Shonda Rhimes did it. Writers, Issa Rae, who I also interviewed, you can find that interview on my YouTube channel. Write. Get some classes. In New York, there's Gotham Writers Workshop. Just start writing. Okay. 3rd piece of advice is, I would say, network. you know, that for me, I haven't been a good networker because I had issues with shyness and social anxiety and stuff like that. So if those are not your issues, then get out and network. If they are your issues, then get some help, you know, for what you're dealing with, and then go out there and get to know other people. People make the world go around. There's no getting around that. And if you're going to work in media, it's you have to love people. Like I really do. Like I love people. I love hearing their stories. I joked about, you know, that I would make media all day with people who look like me, but I actually love hearing people's diverse stories. You know, I met someone the other day who was an Iranian Jew who, you know, is creating something wonderful. And so I may be partnering with her on something like that, you know, people, you have to love, you know, people and storytelling. Okay. Any final comments you'd like to make in regards to African American women or women of color within the technology and media fields? Just do it. Just do it. Get out there, do what you're doing, and, you know, don't accept any thought or belief that you may be less than. Don't let other people define who you are. Define yourself for yourself, as Audre Lorde said. All right, let me see. Who else? What else? All right, let's see, this question is for the site, not for the official interview. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. So that was my interview with Shonell Bacon's incredible site. I'm so glad if you're on the site that you're on the site, or if you're on my site, I'm glad you're here too. And just to close, I'm going to close by pulling one of my African Goddess affirmation cards and giving us a lesson and a mission to move forward with. I'm going to shuffle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like to shuffle 7 times. And okay, I pulled 2 cards by accident. One of them says, Goddess of Movement, I accept my incredible body just the way it is. And the other one is the Goddess of Fire. I give big love and it boomerangs back greater. And Abiola's goddess lesson on this card, which is in the spirit of Oya, a Yoruba goddess, is, how do you share your personal power and resources? Do you give back with money, time, or material or goods? You confidently advance toward your future when you're able to love and give without conditions. How appropriate for this conversation. And the Goddess of Movement card has Ochumare, another Yoruba goddess, on it. So here's this one. How can I show these without the nails? All right. All right. Those are the cards. All right. So let me just close this out and come back over to you. All right, here we are. So thank you so much for watching this. If you are a woman in media, which I actually think that we all should be at this point, with whatever it is that you're doing. If you are, you know, running a cookie bakery or whatever it is, that you should be blogging, you should be in social media, you should be making videos. Everybody doesn't have to have their face out there, but if you want to have your voice out there, there are ways to do that. So whether it's with audio or with the written word or whatever it is, get your voice out there and do not stop. All right, my loves. Jane Baker, love yourself. Bye.